Welcome back to Huddle Up, the show that talks all things football. It's been a while, but we are back. Luca, how are you?
I am doing great. I'm happy to be back here. I feel like I've spent the last 4 days with you, so it's very nice and comforting to see you here as opposed to Saskatchewan where we were, although we had the best time in Sasky. As you'll soon see on the show, maybe not this week specifically, but in the future on TSN YouTube and on television. We spent 24 hours in Mosaic Stadium, 6 a.m. on a game day to 6 a.m. the next morning, and it was one of the wildest experiences of our lives, I think.
Yeah, special shout out to the Saskatchewan Roughriders for hosting us. Just phenomenal hospitality. And that stadium was incredible. I honestly think we could have spent 48 hours there and we still would have liked to do more because there's just so much to do. And it's crazy to see how much goes into preparing for a game day. The atmosphere was incredible and just the city of Regina really showed up for what was a great game. But it's also been a great CFL season so far. We're just about a third of the way through it. I was looking back at our first video before the season started the other day where we predicted the entire season. There's some things that we were very correct about, some things that we look very foolish about already, and I think that's the perfect place to kick off the show. What have we been absolutely wrong about so far this season?
Well, in my mind, I feel like a lot of people gave me some flack for my prediction on the Calgary Stampeders and how their incredible playoff streak would come to an end, and they have been feisty as heck so far this season. So I don't want to say I was completely wrong about it because some of the stats are a little wonky so far, and we went back, looked through all the games. Like, they've been in every single game so far. They just coming off of a win against the first place team in the West, the BC Lions, who I think have looked pretty unbeatable and did it by 2 points, which is a close win. Another one, Jake Mayer, 11 touchdown passes to 5 interceptions. I think he's played pretty well, but they don't have a receiver with over 300 yards, only one of 2 teams in the CFL not to have a guy hit that threshold, and I know Mark and Michelle is 299, so they basically have a guy there, but still don't technically. They're also one of the only teams in the CFL, if not the only team, that doesn't have a player with 2 sacks this season. So that is also a weird kind of stat that they have on defense. I don't know what to make of this team quite yet, but I feel like I can confidently say I was wrong about them because they've still been able to put together some really nice wins so far this season, and they haven't been blown out, and they're also not winless like the Edmonton Elks are so far this season in a hyper-competitive West Division. I will say Rene Paredes has really kept this team afloat, especially when they have struggled a little offensively moving the ball. He is perfect on the year, 17 for 17 on field goals. It seems like he just gets better with age. So the Calgary Stampeders, I'm not ready to say I was completely wrong about them, but I think that I need to give them a little more credit and what they've got going on, their infrastructure, their culture, everything about them.
I think you used the perfect word. It's feisty because they're in every game, whether it's a low-scoring battle or a high-scoring shootout. They are in it, and they are exciting to watch. And I also think that they look better than they did a year ago, too, which is something that I wouldn't have told you going into the season. They kind of felt like this odd man out. But with every single game being so close, they've managed to be a team that learns how to win those close games, where Edmonton Elks, you can also say they've been in every game, but they have 0 wins to show for it. So Calgary Stampeders, I feel like I'm kind of apologizing to the fan base as well. Although some of the numbers you worry about it being sustainable, but for the time being, you're very, very happy with where they're sitting thus far in the season. The team that I was completely wrong about, it's also in the West Division, it's the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And the start that they had, you just couldn't have dreamt up a worst possible scenario to begin a season. It was just a pure disaster. They look a shell of themselves offensively. I know they're dealing with 2 very tough injuries to key wide receivers, but they just don't look like those same old Blue Bombers. Zach Galeros has just 1 game this entire season where he's thrown a touchdown. Things are just not clicking, and I know it's a long season, but it's starting to get to the point where you're worried about long-term potentially missing the playoffs, things like that, with just how shaky they've been.
When you are dealing with the injuries that they're dealing with on offense, especially on offense with Dalton Schoen and Kenny Lawler specifically, those are 2 of the best receivers in the league. So having them out of the lineup, everyone else has to step up around them, and it just doesn't feel like as cohesive of a unit as we are used to seeing in the past. And defensively, I don't think they've been all that bad. Like, Saskatchewan wasn't really able to put up 1,000,000 points on them or yards. It never felt like they were being overpowered, but I do think that there's something to be said about this team, especially because offensively, that's been their identity. They've been one of the most consistent and explosive offenses in the CFL over this incredible run. So to have that come back down a little bit has really exploited some of the other holes on this team a little bit.
Still lots of time left, so it's not too late for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers to save face and make something of this season. But for now, those are the two teams we were very, very wrong about. Coming up after the break, though, the other side of the coin, the teams that we were right about heading into the season.